everyone. Welcome to your 2023-2024 Student Government Candidate Forum. Thank you all for being here tonight. My name is Maddie Marriott, and I'm the editor-in-chief of the Lafayette. And I'm here with Emma Chen, one of our managing editors. We are really excited to continue the tradition of moderating this forum, and we believe it's our responsibility, particularly in an uncontested election, to ask tough questions, both about the candidates' past records and future plans, to ensure that the student body has the proper opportunity to hear from the candidates. A note on the structure of tonight. So we're going to begin by giving each of the candidates 30 seconds to introduce themselves. Following this, unless indicated otherwise, each question will be directed to a particular candidate. There are some that will ask for answers from everyone, but we will address you directly so you know who we're asking. You'll have 1 minute to answer each of those questions. And if you're wondering how much time you have left, you can look to Trevor, our timekeeper right here. He has some signs for you. So he has 15 seconds remaining and an out of time. I think they're pretty self-explanatory. But there you go. And then voting will open tomorrow at 8 a.m. and will close at 11:55 p.m. on November 7th. So you can vote anytime between now and then. Is that all correct?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yes. So we are going to jump right in. And we'll start with 30-second introduction. So T, if you want to get us started.
Hi, I'm Thania Hernandez. I also go by T. I'm a junior, and my current position is vice president. I will be running for president for this next term, and I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for coming.
Hi, I'm Yuko Tanaka. I'm a sophomore, and I'm currently the chair of Sustainability Committee on Student Government. I'm also the co-chair of the Menstrual Equity Project Ad Hoc Committee, and I'm running for vice president.
Hello, everyone. I'm Christo Maheras. I'm a sophomore from Chicago, Illinois. I'm running for treasurer. Thus far in student government, I have been involved as the student organizations chairman. I've also been on the budget committee. I was on the elections ad hoc committee and on the course evaluation feedback ad hoc committee.
Hi everyone, my name is Elle Lansing. I am a sophomore and I'm from Farmington, Connecticut. Currently, I am on the Sustainability Committee and I am also on the Ad Hoc for Dining, and I am running for Communications Officer.
Hi everyone, my name is Chris. I'm from the Bay Area. I'm a sophomore. I'm running for parliamentarian this year. I'm looking forward to implementing policies over the coming year and truly reflecting the diversity here at Lafayette.
Great. So we're going to try to be loud enough that the live stream and the recording can hear us, so we'll be maybe turning this way a little bit.
Okay. This first question is going to go to all the candidates, beginning with Thania and ending with Chris. This election is the first election in decades without any contested offices. Why do you think you are running unopposed? Why, if at all, do you believe people should vote in an uncontested election?
So I genuinely do believe that the main reason why people didn't run for president is because everyone's going abroad. All of the juniors are going abroad, and I think that there's various candidates that, if we're staying next semester, could have made an amazing president or an amazing presidential candidate. And I do think that people should vote, either using their vote to vote for us or to abstain, but having that freedom to have a say in what you want in office for student government.
I really second what he said. But I would say, definitely vote. You have your voice, and you can use it, whatever way you want, so.
Yeah, so my position that I'm running for as treasurer is a little bit unique in the sense that it does require a bit of time to take to learn the position. And so I was very fortunate to have been put in a position this year by virtue of being the student organizations chairman, getting an automatic position on the budget committee to be part of that. And as it turns out, the budget committee's makeup at the moment is no one is returning. We have people graduating and people going abroad, and I'm the only one coming back. And I'm running today just because I think I have the know-how and the ideas to carry the office forward. I really would have liked to see someone to run as well, but at the end of the day, I can't control what people do. But I would really encourage you all to come out and vote, even if you don't vote for any of us. As long as you get out there and vote and do the form, that's all we ask.
Part of the reason I think maybe people don't run for communications officer is because it requires you to be very attentive and vigilant during meetings. It's a lot of organization. But I think people should vote just because I think it's important to understand what we all do as prospective members of the executive board. Each person has like a unique role, and if you understand like what we're working on, you could be more involved and just like be more aware of what student government does.
To speak on top of all the opinions provided by everyone here on stage, it's also important to understand that it's a numbers game. There's only 10 people who are eligible to run for any of these positions, just because you need 1 semester of experience in student government before running for executive board. I want to fundamentally change that. Only 10 students out of 3,000, that's not a fundamentally healthy democracy. So by implementing transitional periods between an old term and a new term, making sure that individuals are experienced enough to know what they're getting into before getting into their new positions, we can maintain a sense of continuity while elevating the experience and quality of the governance of the student government. Also, as to emphasize, as everyone else here said, I encourage everyone to vote, and I appreciate the newspaper as well as the PR team of student government in actually forwarding that message.
So this first question is for Yuko. And they're not in any particular order, so sorry, we're going to pass the mic a bit. So as vice president, it will be your job to recruit and retain members of the student government. So what are you planning to do that hasn't already been done to get more students involved in student government?
So our meetings are always open, so anyone can come to our meetings to like see what it's like to be on student government and then decide if they want to apply for student government positions. Currently, we were talking about having like a shadowing experience for incoming like freshmen and also just like other students who are like interested in student government and what we do. I think that would just like really help like students understand, get an idea of like what student government's like, what you can do, what things you can work on, and just like give them like a chance to like get to know student government more. Yeah.
Okay, Thania, can you explain your vote against opening the positions of vice president and treasurer to the student body in light of their lack of opposition?
Yeah, so as the current vice president for this term, for me personally, it was a learning process, but fortunately enough, I had various people on my side, including the ex-president back there. I had Trevor, who was very, very experienced, and they genuinely guided me in doing such, and so I think that without that support for the next people coming in, they wouldn't be able to kind of carry out the responsibilities of vice president to its most effective ways. It's also just genuinely a really hard job, and it requires a lot of experience in order to do so, whether that be leadership or already in student government. As far as treasurer, we had a long conversation about, Christo over here has been serving on the budgeting committee, and they have to deal with hundreds of clubs on campus, and so for that, they absolutely need the experience on budgeting committee in order to run for treasurer.
This next question is also for you. A couple in a row for you. So
Okay.
So moving on to engagement a little bit. Our reporting suggests that student government meetings recently have started late, finished early potentially, and have had some distracted members, especially in the past month. So how will you establish order as student government's presiding officer?
I would say that I don't know if that's necessarily, to its fullest extent truth, and to say matter of fact, in the recent couple meetings, we've had interested members coming to see the student government meetings. We've had a couple of them present here because they want to see what the change is like and they want to see how the meetings run. Also, I think additionally, the meetings have been, ending earlier or than usual. The meetings are from 7 to 8, just because there has been an established agenda that has been carried out more successfully throughout these, various couple of meetings. Does that answer your question completely?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, last one for you right now. Looking to your record on engagement as vice president, since February, it has been your job to seek applications in the event of vacancies. Student government promised back in February to fill the vacancies in the 2024 delegation. Applications were not open to fill the vacancies until September. During the week of September 10th, you said that applications are opening up this week, and applications were not advertised to be open until September 27th. There's still one vacancy. How do you explain all this?
Yeah. Well, to fill the vacancies, they were open throughout all of last semester. And then over the summer, I believe we're trying to open them, but we didn't have the necessary elements. I met with Vanessa a couple of times over the summer, Vanessa Pearson, who is kind of like our mentor to do the applications and everything. So she was guiding me through all of that process. As far as this semester, they weren't opened. I mean, in genuine terms, it was a lack of just communication within internally. And on my end, I also am a student and a person at Lafayette, so my sole job is not just to be vice president, but to be a student and to be the best student I possibly can be. So for this semester, they were open. They still are open for various students, and we were able to fill one vacancy. So as far as I'm concerned, they have been open for a long time, and it's just a matter of people not applying to the position.
Thanks for answering a couple around. Next question is going to be for Yuko. In the same vein, so what is your plan for filling vacancies moving forward?
I feel like we could definitely do more to be like transparent with the students. Maybe like using our social media. Elle has great plans for that. Just being more like, just like really present in the school community, so that like students see that if they join student government, there's like so many things you can do. There's like things you can work on, and we actually make like a lot of change. Like we do a lot of things, and I feel like people don't see that, and that's partly our fault because we really need to work on like being more transparent, like really showing like what we do. So I think improving that part would definitely increase engagement and increase the applications, hopefully.
Okay, this one's for Chris. On the note of vacancies, student government representatives are allowed 3 absences before their seats are declared vacant. The executive board votes on what absences are excused. Chris, what do you think counts as an excused absence?
So, per our Constitution, excused absent constitutes one of 3 different varieties. So first is medical. If you have a medical condition that hinders you from partaking fully in the meeting, you're excused from the meeting. Second is personal. If you have any family issues, for example, that immediately excuses you from the meeting. And third is a miscellaneous category dependent on the exec board's judgment. So if there's anything out of their control that happens to happen during a meeting, that could be counted as an excuse. Ultimately, I think it's a fair system. We should recognize the variability in each of our schedules and work around that. Student government shouldn't be a duty imposed upon its members. It should be a privilege, a right to be able to represent the student body. I think we should really try to facilitate that, not only in the policies we make, but in terms of the culture we try to create.
So yeah, in that same vein, talking about what is and is not an excused absence, this is going to be a raise your hand question for the candidates. You can raise it or keep it down. So raise your hand if you would allow a representative to not attend a meeting because they have a meeting for another club there. If anyone would like to speak on that, you may.
Yeah, I think it depends on whether, we don't allow for, thank you. We don't allow for, if you're taking a night class, for example, which will be highly advertised, you can't take a night class on Thursdays and then be at the meeting at the same time. Additionally, I think it's hard to say whether that meeting is to plan, for example, like a formal, or if you're an exec for that specific club and that's the only time that you can meet that day, then I think that on a personal level, I would excuse it. But I think it varies on circumstances, so I can't really say a definite whether or not, a club, I would allow someone to miss our meeting for another club's. If that's a continuous thing, then I would genuinely encourage whoever it is to kind of pick whether they want the club or they want to be on student government.
Can I add as well?
Sure.
Yeah, I think that the people who are on student government represent truly a very diverse spectrum of what people do at Lafayette. But at the same time, as Chris said, I agree wholeheartedly that serving in student government is a privilege, so you should put it above everything else. I guess everything else that you do. Yes, there are meetings for clubs that are extremely important, but I mean, I'll say that in the 2 semesters that I've served on student government, that every meeting that I've been to, which is, I think I've only missed 1 or 2, I've been skipping club volleyball practice every single time. And to me, it's a trade-off that I'm willing to make because I was put into this position. I was given the trust of the people who interviewed me. I was given the trust of my peers. And honestly, I've never looked back from that.
Excuse me.
Okay, back to Christo. Based on reports published in the Lafayette, students are frustrated with the lack of transparency from the budget committee and insufficient funding giving their clubs to function. What are your plans to address this lack of funding, and how do you plan to be more transparent in budget?
Yeah, great question. So this year we took a hard look at what we had to work with. In recent years, over COVID, there was a reserve that was built up, and that reserve, as we came out of COVID, was given out willy-nilly and really given to the people who it was asked. And so as I stepped onto the budget committee, Arib, who's the current treasurer, said, we really have to think long and hard about this. This is something that we should think about. And so when we had all the clubs actually in this room, we told them exactly that, as your requests maybe got fully funded in the past, it's not going to be that now. But my point is that to really, in my mind, to really gain the trust and transparency of the students on this campus, what I'll do as the budget committee chairman is add 1 more office hours per week. I'll also make myself available by appointment if people want to talk to me. And also I want to host seminars for people to learn how to budget. So that way they know what we think when we go through the process.
So actually, sort of answered a follow-up question to that, which is about office hours. So I will move on to the next then. So there will be 1 more. So this year, I'm trying to say that student government has deliberated budgets in executive session, meaning that the public is not allowed in the meeting for that period. Do you believe community members should be able to see how their budget is decided in the meeting?
Yeah, I think that is a point that I've definitely brought up in the past, but what it comes down to is that each club is different and their needs are a little bit different. And when it comes down to talking about individual clubs, it just distracts from the point of the overall budget. And so we deliberate them in executive session because when a club submits a request or a budget, it is private between them and us. And there is a level of trust there. I would be more than willing, and honestly, I've been wanting to have clubs be more involved in the process of watching us do it, as well as having input on it. So I think one of the things that hopefully if I get into office, that I'll ask people, establish that relationship of, I'm your touch point, please come to me if you have questions. I'd love to work with you through putting a budget request in and being your advocate. So, yeah.
Okay, Elle. According to the bylaws, the communications officer must send meeting minutes to members of the administration, the faculty committee chairs, the campus news and media, all general body representatives, head resident advisors, fraternity and sorority presidents, delegates, and students who request them. Your predecessor never sent the minutes to any of these groups. Were you aware of this requirement?
Yes, I was aware of this requirement. I think that partly, the reasoning is behind that is because not the minutes have not always been approved each general body meeting. So I know that I pledge to get those done on time before each GBM, just so that they're ready to be sent out. I definitely think that I'm very organized and I get everything done on time, and I know that I will send it to all the groups that are requesting it.
And so to follow to that, so why, if at all, do you believe it's important that these groups are aware of what happens in student government meetings?
Well, we discuss a lot of different things during our general body meetings. A lot gets covered, and if they're given the minutes, they can understand who is actually discussing these issues. I know that like when someone seconds something, like that is written in the minutes. So I think like it's just important for everyone to understand the topics that we cover and what we actually vote on.
Okay, another transparency measure implemented by student government is an amendment to the bylaws passed earlier this month, stating that a meeting cannot occur unless the agenda is posted publicly 12 hours prior to the meeting. Student government has since then not posted the meeting agenda 12 hours prior to the meeting. How will you see to it that the agenda is posted in a timely manner?
Well, the agenda isn't that like difficult to compose just because like it's not like a super comprehensive like document. It's quite short, and I think that this would not be difficult to post 12 hours prior to the meeting. I think this is something that I can easily complete, and I'll set a timer to get it done.
And Chris, this is a related question for you. So, as parliamentarian, do you plan to enforce this requirement?
Yeah, it's part of the bylaws, so that's my job. I think it's a matter of constant communication between exec board members. We all know each other here. I personally respect everyone on this panel, and I know that they'll do their utmost to commit to their duties as listed on the Constitution. But of course, if any violations or infractions occur, it's my responsibility to follow up on that, make sure that's treated with the deserved braveness that it deserves. So yes, I'll be following up on that, and I'll make sure that that's publicly known, and we can create solutions off of those follow-ups.
Great, Chris, another for you. How strict do you plan to be on enforcing the Constitution and bylaws?
How strict? What does that mean? Yeah, I mean, the constitutions and bylaws are documents, right, that have articles of what you need to do. And given the successes of my predecessor, who's sitting right in front of me, the bylaws and constitution are very clearly written. And so in that sense, it's fairly easy to execute. It's not very ambiguous, and I plan to enforce them to the fullest of my ability.
Awesome, thank you. Christo, next question's for you. And it's another bylaws question. So according to the student government bylaws, the treasurer should provide a balance report at all student government meetings. Given your, well, so this is a two-part question. Given your co-chair position on the budget committee currently, what's the most recent balance of student government's account that you're aware of, and are you prepared to deliver a balance report during your tenure?
Yeah, so actually as it works, we have the balance report done on a Google Sheet that is available to every single member of student government. So it's provided even when the meetings aren't happening. As you're asking me, as I move into this position, what does the balance report look like? We have never been actually in a better spot with keeping to what we've said that we were going to do. We told everyone at the start of the year that we have $300,000 to give this semester and $300,000 to give next semester, and we're damn close. And in the past, that has not been the case. So I think that's really been down to the hard work and the great communication that's been happening within our committee, as well as with student government. I think there's definitely been a great sense of respect between these, and people always have access to these documents.
Okay, Yuko. How involved do you plan to be with budget concerns, given your role as a board of review for all budget protests? Are you prepared to hear all the complaints that clubs have regarding budgets?
I think that's definitely a thing that Christo and I need to discuss. I will be open to going to budget committee meetings whenever possible. And for office hours too, that was a part of my campaign. If you're gonna touch on it later, I won't answer it right now, but it's coming up. Okay, so I'll talk about that later, but yes.
Thank you. So we're now going to ask you to clarify some of your campaign promises, or your campaign platform. So these are published in last week's edition of the Lafayette student government platforms. So just, clarifying some of the things from those interviews. So yeah, we'll start with you. So you said last week that you want to ensure that the master plan takes into account current accessibility issues, and you criticized the master plan process for looking too far into the future. How will you see to it that the current accessibility issues are addressed while today's students still attend college?
Well, I think just talking, I think majorly just physical accessibility has been a really big thing of my platform. I have been in close contact with the one student on campus who is in a wheelchair, and there are various buildings who don't have physical accessibility to them, including dorms. So I think one of the things is kind of putting forth, finding ways or finding different organizations where we can get funding for just ramps, for example, trying to push this to the BOT, trying to push this to President Hurd, and just kind of having that pressure to input this change right now. One of the biggest things is just push buttons, and I think that's a very remediable issue that I can get into enforcing really soon, which is just fixing those buttons and making sure that they work. And if there's a button that doesn't work, there's a system put in place where you can report that, other than just putting them through the services on campus that already do such.
Okay, Yuko. You said last week that you want to collaborate with administrative offices and student organizations to prioritize sustainability. What does this collaboration look like?
So the current Sustainability Committee works a lot with the Office of Sustainability. We have monthly meetings with them to discuss about what is going on and what things student government could do that is unique to us. I believe sustainability is such a fundamental thing that we should be working on. It's a worldwide issue. It's something really important. That's why we have a committee for that on student government. And I believe that we should start working on small things that we could do right now. As I mentioned, we're working on getting the water refill stations in every dorm and academic buildings, and just working, talking, having meetings with them, identifying what's in need, and just working on them. So yeah.
Okay, this one's from Christo. Yeah, we're moving down the line here. So you said in your platform that you want to create a long-term plan for budgets. Could you share those plans with us, and are you planning to make any changes to the way the budget is allocated to clubs?
Yeah, so I'll give you your answer in a little bit, but I've been doing, as I've started in the budget committee, I've been kind of taking into account looking at other schools and how they do things. My list has gotten a little long, but what I find is that a lot of schools actually have a lot of overlap in how they, give out their budgets. And remind me your question was.
My question was, are you planning on making any changes to the way the budget is allocated to clubs?
Yes. So as of right now, I don't have any concrete changes, just because I have not stepped foot into the position yet that I hope to win. But when we talk about a long-term plan, I want to make sure that the people who come after me understand the limitations of our budget, as well as where it comes from and what exactly can be done with it. I just want to clear up any sort of confusion as to, also in the future avoid a scenario like what has happened in the past where student government's overspent and gone into a reserve that at the moment is not very existent. So, yeah.
Thank you. Elle, you said last week that you feel like there's a lot of issues currently that you can try to solve. What are these issues and how do you try to solve them as a communications officer?
So I think that there should be more communication between the student government and the student body. So, for example, I think what we do in our meetings and the work that we do outside of our weekly meetings is very important. So, for example, we have several committees, and those people who serve on those committees are general body members. So I think the work that we do in those meetings should be shared with the general community, whether that be through the Instagram would be the main way I would share that, but I also would share it with my peers in passing as such. But the biggest way I would do that would be through the Instagram, and I would like to do committee updates, committee reports, and possibly spotlighting what we do in those specific groups.
And last platform clarification will be Chris. So you said last week in the platform that you wanted to make changes to student government to allow any member of the student body to run for positions including communications officer, inclusivity officer, and parliamentarian. These changes have already been voted on and approved by student government. So how do you plan to implement these changes given that they are already approved?
I was referring to all positions on the exec board, so including president, vice president, treasurer. That's obviously a prime discussion with the rest of the people who are possibly elected. But going back to the previous comments made earlier by everyone, I don't think we should equate experience to competency. I think it's a fatal mistake that lots of us here make. And through transitional programs I mentioned earlier, that make sure that individuals are understanding the roles and responsibilities that they're stepping into, we can facilitate a sense of continuity between various individuals, as well as make sure that the level of governance stays high within student government. So that was what I was referring to.
I'm going to go off the cuff for a second because, so it seems like just based on your answers that there's maybe a little bit of disagreement within the presumptive executive board about whether or not, experience is necessary for the position. So how would you go about sort of mediating?
Well, I'm still saying that experience is necessary. I'm just saying that experience can be fostered through transitional programs, through having gaps between different terms, making sure that individuals are in those roles for a certain amount of time before they actually fully go into them. I don't think you need to be a representative before you go into those roles.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. So would you say that then you're on a little bit different pages about that, or am I not quite?
I think whether or not, I think we can actually have like a, more in detailed conversation together, and then, if that's through an interview with the newspaper and getting into an agreement or not. I think that that's also necessary for an exec to be able to have discourse, and then therefore kind of mediate and even come up with a better solution to things. So I genuinely think that whether or not we agree or disagree on the certain subject, that's necessary in different circumstances. So I think that, we can definitely work it out regardless, and even come to a better answer to the problem.
Okay, so we're going to ask you all to assess your tenures on student government. This question will go to all of you, beginning with Tina and then with Chris. What is the tangible impact you've had on the student body in your current position? And any position?
Yeah, so I think for me personally, I try to make myself available to every member on student government's general body, but also the general body of Lafayette. I have had several texts, including just today, just asking me different questions on who to connect them with, from individuals on student government, individuals outside of student government, plans to enforce or anything as such. Whenever someone has a question, I'm there to answer it, and if I don't know the answer to it, I reach out to higher-ups like Dean Samble and ask that question for them, and make sure that they have the most precise answer. So I think that's something that I know Yuko will definitely be taking upon herself to do in the future.
Yeah, same question.
Same question. Okay. As a general body, representative, I've definitely been trying to be approachable to anyone, to my friends, to people I know, and listen to students and what they want, what their need is. But to get into more details, as the chair of sustainability, we have, I think the biggest thing we worked on was the hand-me-down regalia program. That was I think it was our second year of that. So it was a program that started off the year before I was in the position, and it was our first time getting it in a transition. So collecting all the regalia, distributing it, seeing where it needs to go to, getting it cleaned and everything. That was a huge process, and I think it was really successful, and I hope it continues on.
It was successful. Yeah. When I've been asked before, what's your greatest flaw? And I always say that I can't sit still. And I think coming on student government, I think I've stayed true to that. So when I got on student government, I was presented with opportunities to join ad hoc committees and to even run for the student organizations chairman. And as a freshman, I think there's sometimes a lot of stage fright that comes with that. But I did raise my hand, and I did end up winning. And since I got on the student orgs committee, I've made it my point of really trying to understand what clubs are at this school, because I think I think the numbers are great. Saying that we have so many clubs and organizations at this school is great, but my question was, who are they? Because the number doesn't do them justice. And so I did work with Vanessa Pearson in the Office of Student Involvement, as well as my committee, to try to audit the clubs to see which ones actually exist, which ones don't exist, because I think students and people looking at the school benefit from that full knowledge.
So I'm a part of the Sustainability Committee with Yuko. I worked with her on the project that she mentioned, and I'm also on the Dining Ad Hoc Committee, which we meet with members of dining to discuss like issues that students feel are important. So prior to those meetings, like before every single meeting, I always make sure to ask my peers, people I'm close with, like, is there anything that you want to be brought up? Are there any concerns that you have? And I really make this a point because I think it's important to just talk with people, and that's where it starts, right? So I think if you just ask people like what they want to see or what they're concerned about, like that's the best way to communicate. And that's what I would continue to do as communications officer.
My largest success during my tenure on student government so far was the codification of the student textbook loan program. Kudos to Caitlin, who's sitting right there, chair of the Academic Affairs Committee. But we've sorted through 300 textbooks, filtered through 50 applications, allowed students the opportunity to access textbooks that they couldn't do previously, either due to financial or other means. And also the implementation of that library into Pond Pantry, which allows a permanent place for that to be stored and for it to be organized. The codification of the resolution allows the responsibilities of that program to continue into further generations, and built my experience in dealing with the Constitution and bylaws. And through that experience, I look forward to being more engaged with the Constitution and fully developing my role as parliamentarian.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. We're going to do another down the line question. Yeah, that's fine. And we'll come back. So a resolution was passed in February that stipulates that general body representatives must dedicate at least 5 hours of service to student government outside of general body and committee meetings. So the question, and then she will come back to you, because for executive board is 10 hours. So the question for all of you is, how many hours have you spent serving student government outside of meetings, and what did you spend them doing? If you don't have like a number.
Yeah. I think we filled out a form for that. Yeah. And I think it was like 25 to 30, somewhere around there. It was mainly, we had a student government summit that we did at the beginning of the year. I think we also had like hours steaming down the gowns for the program. That took a lot. What else did we do? Ad hoc committees, yeah. So I was on the Menstrual Equity Project ad hoc committee, so we met over the spring semester. We also met over the summer to get tampons and pads in academic buildings. And I think it's like a really stable plan. I think the resolution
The menstrual equity?
menstrual equity, yes. So,
Thank you. If you want to, it doesn't matter what order you're going.
Oh, okay. I've been sitting here trying to count in the hours that I've done. I think just alone with the dining ad hoc committees, I think there's been already 4 meetings or 5. So just for exec, I honestly think that I have lost count after 15. But there hasn't been a day where student government doesn't run my mind, or a week where I don't have a meeting related to student government. So a full meeting outside of exec and outside of general body. Yeah, does that answer your question? I don't know if you need any more specific details.
I too can't really recall how much there are, but if you want an idea of what an average week looks like for me.
What about like down to the minute?
We budget committee office hours on Mondays, that's an hour. I have my student works committees on Wednesdays, that's another hour. There's GBM on Thursdays, that's an hour. And then there's the ad hocs that really vary by the season. And those constitute an hour here, 2 hours there. And then we have our budget session, which took 10 hours. So that's all there right there. But I really couldn't tell you. It's definitely enough, maybe more than enough. But I really enjoy student government. I relish like every opportunity I have to be in the position that I am. I enjoy it. I don't know, like nothing more than that.
Yuko's and our hours are kind of similar. We attended the summit on student government. It was like with other schools, and that was like a day-long program. And then we also student gowns, which took us a long time, but we did get it done in time. And then I'm also as T mentioned, we've had about 4 meetings for the dining ad hoc, which counts as extra hours for volunteering. So that's my work.
Yeah, again, I don't have the number of hours memorized, but it goes both of 10 hours, 5 hours dedicated to our orientation program, where we set up a booth, we have goods, we have talked to freshmen, and another 10 hours or so with activities with the academic affairs committee, with the park patch project, with textbook loan program, as well as new programs that we're instituting right now, so that takes approximately 10 hours or so. But to also clarify, we also have 3, 4, 5 months until the end of our tenure, so that should be a little bit more.
Great. On the note of time spent in student government, all but the candidate for president are sophomores. The presumptive vice president-elect, treasurer-elect, communications officer-elect, and parliamentarian-elect each have 8 months of experience in student government apiece. Yuko, you were the first in line for presidency. Your predecessor just had under a year of student government experience, while her predecessor served 3 years in student government before running for vice president. Same with the vice president prior. Why do you believe you have the experience necessary to serve in the
This kind of goes back to, I was on student council in high school, so I feel like going into student government, I did have like a little bit of an idea of like what a student government kind of looks like and how it runs. And I feel like the past year of like being on student government really, it's really enough to know like what's going on, how things run, how things are supposed to go. Like a semester is enough to understand the Constitution, how meetings are run, and that's why I think we have the 1 semester rule to run for an exec position. So, yeah.
Also, just get your question on. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. So we're going to go to Elle next. So how does your student government experience translate into the experience you believe necessary to be a communications officer?
Well, adding on to what Yuko said, I was VP of my class for 2 years in high school, and then this semester from student government at Lafayette. I feel that because I was able to like have the experience and get to know people in student government, I'm able to effectively be a communications officer. I think it starts with, as Yuko said, understanding like what we do, and then like communicating what we do with the students. So as long as I understand what our meetings are about, I can effectively relay that information to students.
Kirch, you've got 4 for you. they're not all super fun. Yeah. You served on the academic affairs committee for 8 months. How does this experience translate into the experience you believe necessary to serve as parliamentarian?
Yeah, so the academic affairs committee, me, Caitlin, Chelsea, Bria, I think we're a great team. We have good chemistry, we facilitate meetings effectively, we go through projects, we have timelines, we're accountable. And so in all those different senses, it really pushes me to not be only accountable for myself, but be accountable for my team. And I think that responsibility and sense of accountability is really important when it comes to being on the executive, having so many student government representatives, but also just representing the entirety of the Lafayette community is a big responsibility, and I hope to translate my experiences in the academic affairs committee to this executive.
And I'm gonna
squeeze together two of the questions for you. So, how well do you feel you've gotten to know the Constitution and bylaws during your tenure, and is there anything that you think of that you would want to change or add in the Constitution and bylaws?
Right. So it's required, at least for our year, to fully read and at least understand the general through line of the Constitution and bylaws for all representatives again coming in our year. And so I did that. I memorized the Constitution when I was 8 months ago. Now it's going out there.
Within the first week. Within the first week, you memorized the Constitution.
And so that was experience that translates to I enjoy this now and hopefully being parliamentarian. And in terms of possible policies, I outlined one of being exec or allowing exec board members to be applied by anyone in the student body, but also instituting ranked choice voting as my predecessor tried to, as well as trying to implement student leaders into committees and ad hocs, which is a bill not explicitly mentioned in our Constitution so far.
Great. Okay, last question right now. Why was parliamentarian? Specifically, why this position?
Yeah, so parliamentarian is a role that I didn't know existed before coming to Stuba. It's like 10 syllables. I had no idea what it did. But in recognizing the power of the Constitution and the power that it holds in terms of structuring the capabilities of Stuba, not just as an organization, but individually for each one of us, it's a powerful document that should be moved effectively to our advantage to help the student body. And so tailoring that Constitution and bylaws to maximize our potential is something that I want to continue to do.
Great. Yuko, a similar question for you. I'm always interested in like the vice president role. I think it's such an interesting position. So why run for vice president specifically, and what do you see as your job?
Well, I definitely ran for vice president because I served on student government for a year, and I knew Tia was running for president, and I thought she would be, like, I could support her in this position. I've had a year experience. I've also been interested in this role since, like, the beginning of student government. And I've been talking with Tia about this position and what she does, and we had, like, some kind of, like, casual discussions about, like, what it's like to be vice president. And I really like the aspect of, like, how the vice president gets to look over all the committees and kind of be like a bridge between the committees and the exec boards and like committees and say like other administrative offices on campus. So I really like that aspect of like working with everyone, overlooking things, and yeah.
You can finish your sentence if you want to. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Elle, what do you plan to do differently from your predecessor?
Well, firstly, I would like to have the minutes done. That's very important. I think that's one, like the top of my list. And then also getting the agenda definitely 12 hours before our meetings. I want to make sure that like the specifics of the meeting are like shared. Not like I know that our meetings are advertised on our Instagram, so people know that like our general meetings are in the location and the time are provided. So I will continue to do that. But initially, I just want to like advertise things specifically that we do, so events that we have. Like for example, Christo's holding office hours. I want to make sure that that's like known. So specifics like that for each committee or like group on Instagram.
And then last question before we get to closing remarks here, then Sarah is for you too. So same question goes to you. What do you plan to do differently from your predecessor?
So I think Olivia has done a lovely job to everything that she's done, but I think that there has been room for improvements, like anything. One of the major things that I want to kind of work along this first semester or spring semester that I will take office hopefully, is definitely getting more internal connection within the student government general body and the exec. I want to invite them to dinner with me so we can, be friends and talk, and I think that allows for more connection and more success in just as an exec leading the overall general body. And additionally, I want to have, those same potlucks with the entire general body for everybody to kind of form more of a connection outside of the professional world. I think this is really important because it allows for more change to happen, but also just friendly conversations, friendly debates, and again, like Chris and I perhaps were disagreeing, and just allowing for a more successful change.
Okay, great. So I just want to thank you guys all so much for answering those questions. We're now going to give you each, starting with Thania and Chris, 30 seconds to closing remarks. So if there's anything that you wanted to bring up that, not that we didn't have a pretty comprehensive question list, but anything that you want to talk about next time?
Yeah, I just, again, I want to make myself available. If anyone in this room would like to be in student government, genuinely, come up to me after this. I'll stay for 10 minutes. Just additionally on just that, you can email me, follow me on Instagram, DM me on Instagram. I'm very available to everybody, and I'd like for that connection to continue. And just thank you so much for coming here. This is a great turnout. Special shout out to my friends and my girlfriend, and obviously Olivia for here. And just, I love you all guys. Thank you for coming. Woo.
I'd say thank you for coming, thank you for listening and staying. Definitely use your vote and just say your opinions. I'm always here if anyone needs to talk about anything or have any ideas, any opinions. I'm always available. You can always reach out to me, and I'd love to hear it.
Once again, I'm Christo, and I'm running. I'm running because I like to put myself in positions where I can take criticism. And as I go through this process and as I try to win your guys' vote, I really want you to be as critical as possible. And I'm going to invite that at every single point if I'm elected, in everything. So I really appreciate you all coming and listening. And I know all these elections are unopposed, but the people who are sitting in front of you are superlative. They are people who I would trust to run anything at this school. And they really deserve your votes.
So I'm our communications officer because I want to get to know more people, and I want to just make what we do on student government. I want to broadcast it to the students. So I hope that if I get this position, I will get to meet more of you. And thank you for coming and supporting us. So yes, please vote.
Yeah, thanks for coming. It's a cool day outside. Stay safe, stay healthy. Please come to GBMs. It's a pretty interesting experience. We're almost pedantically obsessed with the Constitution bylaws. And I really want all of you to see that. It's an interesting experience. And again, please feel free to contact me via email, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever. Happy to answer questions. Thank you.
All right, let's do a round of applause. My director back there. Thank you again all for being here. Really awesome turnout, which is great. Once again, voting opens tomorrow at 8 a.m. and closes November 7th at 11:55 a.m. So p.m. So get out there and vote. And one more round of applause for fantastic candidates.
The newspaper for all you lovely members and for facilitating this discussion.